Welcome to the first Sunday of 2024. Are you ready? We can do this. We can do this. I say that because I know that this sort of beginning of January can sometimes be an interestingly layered time. You know, there's the folks who are very much in the sort of New Year's resolution goal camp, and there's those who are anti-resolution January 1st camp, and there's a wide swath of us in the middle. And there's a lot energetically going on at the beginning of the year. And if you, for any reason, feel any sort of layeredness, amplified energy around this time, I want to say a couple of things about that. The first thing is that, as humans, we make collective agreements around days and names. January 1st, for example, it was Julius Caesar in the Julian calendar who decided arbitrarily that January 1st would be the beginning of a 12-month calendar, even though for centuries, the beginning of the year, through the wisdom of the pagans and the Egyptians, it was always in the fall. It was around harvest time. But Julius Caesar came in. He said, nope, it's on January 1st, and we all agreed. Well, fair enough. It happened on February 14th with Valentine's Day. It happened on March 17th with St. Patrick's Day, never to forget the Irish. It happened on December 25th. For those of us who celebrate Christmas, also a very arbitrary date. Most theologians agree that Jesus of Nazareth was most likely born in the spring. But same-said theologians also agree that it was around 336 when Constantine was trying his best to abolish paganism. And December 25th was a pagan holiday. Many of the Romans celebrated the sun god on December 25th. It aligned with the winter solstice, and so Constantine and his band of gents came in and said, what a great idea. We'll make Jesus' birthday on December 25th. We'll change it to a Christian holiday. Hence, bye-bye paganism. It's all arbitrary. Speaking of arbitrary, the letter J was not even added to the English language until the 1500s. In fact, taking this a layer deeper, the first Christian Bible, New Testament, with Jesus, was not printed until the 1600s. Jesus wasn't called Jesus. Jesus was called Yeshua. There was no J. It was transliterated in the 1600s. That's how arbitrary things can be. That's how arbitrary we make these decisions. January 1st. So if you're feeling pressure, let it go. Let it go. It's an arbitrary date. That said, there is this sort of beauty and grace in this idea of a new year, of something coming. I always hear that. Something coming, ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. It's my musical theater background. I can't help it. But I'm one of those people, I love New Year. I will say Happy New Year's well into February. People look at me a little strangely. But I love it. Why? The etymology of the word new, the original meaning of the word new, actually meant grow, growing, grown. So when you say Happy New Year, it's as if you are saying Happy growing year. Happy growing year, beloveds. Those of you here, those of you online. Happy growing year. Shelley gave such a beautiful talk last week. If you have not yet seen it, please give yourself that gift. And she taught us that there was scientific experiments done around this idea of a doorway. Do you remember that, those of you who were here? You know why we walk into a room and we forget what we're doing? It's because the brain has stepped into a new doorway, something new, and so it's refocusing, and sometimes we forget why we're walking in there. And there's this idea of stepping through the doorway of a new year, this collective agreement that we have all made together. And one of the things that I want to invite us into as we step into this doorway is to love more in 24. There was a woman by the name of Rose Crawford. She lived a long time ago. When she was 4 years old, she contracted 2 different strains of measles, and she became blind. She spent the next 50 years of her life as a blind person. She married, she had a lovely life, and when she was 54 years old, she heard that there was a surgery, a delicate surgery that could restore her sight. Rose got this surgery, and at 54, she was able to see. Can you imagine? Can you imagine her seeing her husband's face for the first time? She said, I knew you were tall, but I didn't know you were a giant. He was really tall. Can you imagine the first time she looked at an artichoke? Or her cat? Can you imagine? Or a Christmas tree lit up with lights or a sunset? Can you imagine that? Wonder, that astonishment, that instant gratitude and appreciation with which she lived the rest of her life. One of the aspects of this story is very interesting to me. It is that Rose discovered that this surgery had existed 20 years earlier. Had she had this surgery, she would have had her sight restored when she was 30, 34. And the reason I bring that in is there's something in this for us. For me personally, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking to myself, what is it that I unconsciously choose not to see in the world? And can I make the decision to see it with new eyes, with Rose Crawford eyes? Could I do that? That's an invitation for all of you. What is it that you may not be seeing in your world right now that you could choose to see, to look at with new eyes? And how would that change you? How would that change you? And would that bring more love into your world, in this life? You know, something I like to do at the end of the year, I always reflect between Christmas and New Year, the year previous. And I was thinking about 2023. And as those of you who've been around here for a long time, you know that my intention is always to provide us as a collective with spiritual tools to help further our spiritual growth so that you can utilize this teaching with a practical modality. Because this is not meant to be sort of esoteric. This is meant to be a practical spirituality, one that we can use in our life. And I was going through all the different spiritual practices and tools that I give you, and I have about 10 of my favorites personally, because know that I test drive all of them before I give them to you. I make sure. And there was one in particular that I brought to you at the beginning of last year that I used all year that transformed me, that changed me, and I want to share it with you. Some of you will remember this. I'm going to invite you to perhaps re-implement it. For some of you, it will be new. It's the concept of first thought, second thought. Anybody? Okay. First thought, second thought. What could that mean, first thought, second thought? So, quick review. If someone wrongs you, let's say, insults you, if you're navigating something that's very difficult with another human, or let's say there's something that is occurring that causes fear, right? We have our ancient reptilian brain. I believe that we are evolving out of that brain, but in this lifetime, we have that brain. And so it's here to teach us. And so our reptilian brain and or a part within us, when someone wrongs us, let's say, rushes to protect, right? And this can show up like lashing out. It can show up like reacting, not responding. It can show up with a grrr or any kind of first thought. Anybody? Like somebody, cut you off on the road or whatever it might be, and it's that. That is totally human. That doesn't mean you're not spiritual. Take it from me. It's totally human. It's a human experience. Monks who have been meditating for 40 years navigate this. It's the human experience. It's what it is to live on the human plane, that initial reaction. That's our first thought. It's our ego thought. It's a part of us. It's our protector. We have this amazing gift, this moment in between the first and the second. The second thought we get to choose. We get to choose the second thought. So, if, let's say, I'll just use the same example, someone cuts you off the road and you go, burp, right? If you can take a moment, take a breath, choose your second thought. Allow it to be one of high vibration, a thought that is divine, that is filled with compassion, that is filled with love, benefit of the doubt. Oh, something must be happening with them, or I just bless them, whatever it might be. I'm using the simplest example. First thought, second thought. First thought, second thought. As we move into 2024, the way that we are going to create more love on the planet is to choose that second thought. Wherever we are, from our couch, from our car, from our workplace, wherever we are, when we can choose that second thought, we are participating in the global peace process. Because we are giving ourselves permission to have more inner peace, and therefore, that is our gift to the world. Do you see what I'm saying? We will have peace in the world when we have peace within ourselves. So many teachers have shared. But the thing is often we don't choose that. We choose to not see the opportunity. There was a story, I don't know if any of you read about this, last week in Japan. Many of you know I traveled to Japan and I'm in love with that place and that culture. We flew in and out of Haneda Airport, and at the Haneda Airport, there was an unfortunate accident. There was a plane filled with 367 people that collided with a Coast Guard plane. It was one of those things. But here's the deal. It collided with a smaller plane. The Boeing jet with 367 people caught fire. First thought, rush the doors, save myself, grab my stuff, go. Not one person acted on that first thought, and it saved every single person on the plane. They chose the second thought. They chose to take a breath, to sit with the feelings, to sit with the fear, to listen to the skilled crew people who made the most incredible rescue of 367 people on that plane. They all slid down, the slide. Not one injury. Not one injury. Can you imagine sitting on that plane as the people behind you or in front of you are sliding down the plane and you're waiting your turn? You can see flames out the window. You are waiting your turn. You are choosing the second thought for the greater good of all. Experts say there is no way they would have had that survival rate had the people on the plane not been wise enough to take care of each other in that moment. Love more in 24. We have an opportunity always to choose love, always. Bell Hooks wrote, "The moment we choose love, we move forward in freedom." The moment we choose love, we move forward in freedom. The moment we choose love, my friends, we are saved and we save others. You see, we're saved from our own, nothing outside of ourselves, our own first thought. For those of you who may be here for the first time, sometimes we get newcomers at the beginning of the year, whether here in person or online. I want you to know that you've truly stepped into a community that puts love first. We consider ourselves to be spiritual, not religious, not because we don't honor people who choose the religious path. For us, for the kindred spirits here, we prefer to be dogma-free. We do not subscribe to a hell or a Satan or evil spirits. We do not subscribe to a moody man in the sky called God. We call God by many names: spirit, source, quantum consciousness. My word for God has been and always will be love. My question is always love. What do you have for me this day? Which is catching on in the zeitgeist, which is very nice. Elizabeth Gilbert has started a new, have many of you heard of Elizabeth Gilbert's new letters from love? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? It's so new thought. It's so new thought. It's fantastic. So the thing is that if we could whittle our teaching down to one word, it would be oneness. We are one in this human family, one. And we get to celebrate as a human family all of our unique differences, all that we bring. I brought this flower arrangement today with all these different flowers, all these different colors and shapes and sizes and textures. And, you know, one of the things that for me, when I loved it, that's actually my water pitcher I keep in my kitchen. I like to have flowers in that pitcher in my kitchen window. It makes me happy. And this right here is our human family. We could look at a bouquet of flowers that you can get at Safeway, and you can think of them as a metaphor for our human family. There isn't one flower that's more important than another, that's above another. They're meant to be together, creating this beauty, just like us humans, just like us. And here in this community, as a spiritual community dedicated to oneness, one of the things that is preeminent in this community is spirit-led social action, is putting love to our feet and living it out into the world, supporting those who are in need in every way we possibly can, in whatever way we possibly can. I received a beautiful email from a practitioner in our community, a beloved that I love so very much, and they reminded me to keep saying the quiet parts out loud from up here. And I want you to know that's what I'm going to do this year. It's my commitment to you. I'm going to continue saying the quiet parts out loud. And what I mean by that is I mean the parts that often people who have platforms don't talk about. I can't think of a safer place to talk about hard things than right here. A hard thing that we are facing in this human family in the United States of America is the threat of our democracy. That is hard. And we get to join together, and we get to do whatever we can this year, here in person, online, wherever you are, and support the life and the continued life of our democracy. Because you see, fascism, authoritarianism wants to take this beautiful bouquet of flowers and it wants to dismantle it. It wants to take the sunflowers and put them over here. It wants to take the alstroemeria and put them over there. It wants to take the carnations and put them way over there. It wants to take this beautiful flower, I don't know the name of it, and I really don't know what it is, but it wants way in the back. It wants to put the roses way up here. That's what authoritarianism wants to do to our human family. And we, my friends, are not going to allow it. Are you with me? We're not going to allow it. This is part of our faith path. Oneness is part of our faith path. Joel Goldsmith wrote, "Earth becomes heaven to the degree in which we let God fulfill itself as our individual expression." Earth becomes heaven to the degree in which we let God fulfill itself as our individual expression. Every single one of us is spirit in shoes, love in shoes, every one of us. And we get to be that in the world for one another. We get to be that. We get to support our human family. It's one of the reasons we take such a strong stance in this community and work for equity and human dignity for all people, for women, people of color, people in the LGBTQIA spaces, neurodiverse people, folks of every size, the unhoused, Mother Earth herself. This is spiritual work. People will often say to me who don't understand our teaching, Rev. Shannon, why would you talk about anything having to do with politics? Because I must. Because it's our human family we're talking about. It's our human family we're talking about. Nobody is going to dismantle this bouquet. Nobody. Nobody. You know, Spirit woke me up this morning at 4 a.m. That's what happens when I'm gone for a little while. And I am a morning meditator. I journal, I pray, I meditate. And this morning, I was like, well, okay, God, what's happening? All right. So I go into meditation, and the same sentence kept coming through over and over again. It was so funny. I was like, I got it. It kept coming. It was, love each other more. Tell them, love each other more. I invite you to see each other and your world with the eyes of Rose Crawford. I know the next time I'm at the grocery store, I am not going to just walk past those artichokes. The magnificence of this world. The magnificence of this world. How do we love each other more? We choose the second thought, beloveds. We choose the second thought. We act on the second thought, not the first. The second thought, a higher, divine, compassionate thought. This will grow you, I promise. I speak from experience. This will grow you. This week, I invite you to remember, allow this bouquet to be anchored in your memory. When you choose to watch the news, understanding it's one big prayer request, I invite you to anchor this in your memory. Whatever is happening, our job, our spiritual work, is to love each other more. That means everyone. Ooh, feedback. I got it, God. It means everyone. It means everyone. You do not have to like what someone is doing. The spiritual path is to love them anyway. To love them anyway. To love each other more will help us live from an awakened, alive state, as the Buddha taught, to be awake. When we can be truly awake, when we can really see that artichoke, when we can choose that second thought, When we can visualize the bouquet of flowers, we become more alive in this life. And as we become more alive in this life, more awake in this life, we become energized to work towards and for the greater good for all people. It's all connected. It's all connected. We have an opportunity to be more present with the presence in everything. We have a saying around here, there's no spot where God is not. There's no spot where God is not. And in the places where you think there isn't God, that's the place to affirm there is. That's the place to affirm there is. There is so much beauty. There is so much grace for each one of us in this life and in this year. In this growing year. April Peerless wrote, "The world doesn't want to be saved. It wants to be loved. That's how we save it." The world doesn't want to be saved. It wants to be loved. That's how we save it, beloveds. We love it. We love each other more.